Hi everybody, we're live. This is Mike with MTM Hydro and Veloci, and I've got Heather here. Heather, say hi.
Hello.
And we are going to be discussing a premier product of ours, and Heather's got a few questions that people have asked us over the last few years. So, what are we talking about today?
Well, first, Mike, are you going to tell me about our hose?
I would love to. So,
all right. First, what's the difference between Obsessed Garage and our hose?
Okay, so Obsessed Garage carries a premier hose of ours, and that is the Smooth Jacket Cobra Jet. And that's a hose that is, it's been around for a few years, but the difference with his is this Smooth Jacket is actually much better from a hose reel and a dirt and grime standpoint. So when you talk about normal hose is wrapped, and so wrapped hose, it gets these dimples in it, and these dimples, as it drags across your driveway or through yards or whatever, when you're cleaning, it captures all this dirt, and so when you're winding it back up, if you're holding onto the hose and winding it, if you consider your hand's just covered in gunk and all kinds of stuff. This does not have that. In addition to that, all of these hoses that we now carry for Cobra Jet have an acid-tested fitting. So it is salt-tested, which means it's going to last a heck of a lot longer. It has swivel on one side. This is not a live swivel, it's just a swivel. And it's got a fixed end on the other side. These little caps are thread protectors, meaning that when you get it, these threads will not be compromised. These are NPT 3/8 threads. So, Obsessed has this hose. We have black and gray, similar specs, although smooth versus black and gray. Blue is non-marking. And he has exclusivity on that line. It's an exceptional hose. He buys a lot of it, and he's got some really particular customers that enjoy the best of the best, and so that's what we've got for him.
That's really awesome. Thank you for that information. Now, what are these ends?
Okay, so typical hose for pressure washers are NPT threads. With these, this is like a consumer hose. Like if you went to Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever, and you wanted to get hose, you'd end up with a hose like this. So it has M22 14 millimeter couplers on both ends. One end screws into the pressure washer, and the other end screws into your gun. With these, this little middle portion here is called the stem. Inside that is a 14 millimeter O-ring. You can make this a coupler by simply buying one of our items, the 24.0447. You stick it in, and you wind it on, and you've got a coupler on the end. So one end to your hose, or I'm sorry, one end to your pump, and then the other end with a coupler on it, and you can buy the plug version for your gun as well that we've got. I hate these hoses. And I know that we sell a lot of them because they're inexpensive, but it's PVC, it's not gonna last long, it has a ton of memory, so even when you pull it out, even when it's under pressure, it's all coiled up. I don't like these. If you're able to, I strongly suggest you upgrade and don't go with a 20 or a 25-foot hose. 25 foot, if you have to, then do it. 25 feet doesn't even get you around your car. Most cars are 16 to 18 feet, which means if your pressure washer is on one side of the car and you're on the other, you have to walk all the way around back where you washed to start the other side. Go with a 50-foot hose and go with a Cobra Jet from either Obsessed, us, or a number of dealers that we can supply you with if you ask questions later.
Awesome, thank you. So what's the difference between all the different colors? It's just the Obsessed Garage has exclusivity on the blue?
Yes, they do. So we do not carry blue hose any longer. And so the smooth blue is his. It is a non-marking hose, especially because it's smooth. So in a lot of cases, a wrapped blue hose will still mark on really nice light colored concrete. You can still see scuff marks. With this, it's faint if not at all there. You really can't even see it. We're doing some testing out back and you can't see any of it, even when the ground is wet and the concrete is a little bit rough. These really do not mark. The gray is technically considered a true non-marking hose. And the black will mark, especially when it's wet. So it's got what's called a carbon jacket versus the silicone jackets of these two. The two hoses that we carry and offer are considered wrapped. Wrapped hose is just an impression. There's no actual wrap around the hose. It's an impression caused by compression when they're making the hose. All Cobra Jet hose now has a thicker inner lining, which means it's stronger than it used to be. The other interesting point, all professional hoses are going to have, let's see if I can find a good one here. All professional hoses are going to have one smooth section right here, and that's called the lay line. And your lay line is what describes your PSI and your temperature limits. So if this hose has limitations, which they all do, it'll show it there. 6,000 PSI, 4,000 PSI. Usually you'll see also the burst rating, which is 3 to 1 or 4 to 1, depending on what your hose is. So if it's 3 to 1 and your hose is 4,000 PSI, that means you have up to 12,000 PSI before it will technically burst. With the some of the new fittings that we have on there, so we were talking about some of the salt and acid tested fittings. So they're all 3/8. One is swivel, so it moves, and the other is fixed, doesn't move. The way they build hoses, if you look at this guy here, they put on the ferrule, that's what this is, and it's got teeth inside. They look like threads. Those teeth bite the wire. And so what they do is they lubricate the barb, they insert it into the hose, and then they slide the ferrule forward, and then they crimp it with several thousand pounds of pressure so that the ferrule bites the hose and it cuts into the wire, which is inside. There's a wire braid, so that it securely holds the fitting in there.
I didn't think I could ever learn that much about hose.
There's a lot of people don't know about hose. They're not all the same. One other piece of this you should probably know. So all of our professional hose has 3/8 fittings. You can hardline these right into a spray gun. Although we don't recommend it because then you've got a gun and everything flopping around when you're trying to reel it back up. So this will screw right in. NPT threads are made to experience resistance at 3 threads. So if you get 3 threads out, it's going to start to get harder and harder to seal. When you install these, you want to make sure to use either Teflon tape or you want to use thread lock, and you want to use about 2 to 3 drops of thread lock for it. What we typically recommend is that you would install a plug. So you've got a 3/8 plug there. This is stainless, of course. And on this end, because this is male, since you can see the threads, you would install a 3/8 female coupler. And once you get to 3 threads, it gets harder. So if you've got Teflon or your thread lock on there, give it another half turn to 1 whole turn, so you can only see 4 total threads.
Well, thank you for all that information.
You're welcome. I look forward to some of the questions that you guys come up with. It's always a pleasure when we get to share this with people. I mean, when you guys call in, we definitely enjoy talking to you about our hose and all the differences between what our competitors have as well as what we carry.
You know, I just thought of one last question.
What's that?
Do these still stay pliable when they're pressurized?
Oh, good question. Okay, so one last thing before we go. When you have hose under pressure, it becomes even more rigid than it already is. I'm going to show you a couple things here. You won't be able to see it very well, but we'll do some close-ups later. With hose, whether it's wrapped or smooth, as long as it's pressure washing hose and it's high pressure rated, you're going to see a braid on the inside. If it's 1 wire, they call it R1, it's 4,000 PSI. If it's 2 wire, it's R2, that's 6,000 PSI. Inside there, that wire braid, when it's pressurized with several thousand pounds of pressure, or even 1,600 pounds of pressure, it creates dimples on this. That is water literally pushing against the walls of the hose, and that's usually when your gun is not engaged, so you're not using it. Your hose is retaining full pressure. You'll see little dimples come out. It becomes much more rigid when that happens. What's interesting is that as compared to the PVC hose or a plastic hose, despite being more rigid right now, it is pliable, but it's somewhat rigid. When it's under pressure, this hose is heavier, it's got wire in it, it's built stronger, it's built to last. It is more pliable when under pressure than any of these hoses because of the memory and because of the quality that goes into something like this. Your money is going towards improving your cleaning experience and making it easier to get around vehicles, to wash sidewalks, to do buildings. It may be a little bit heavier, but it's gonna last a heck of a lot longer. And that's part of the reason that we sell a lot of these, is that people go through 2, 3, 4 of these in the time that you could get through, many years with something like this. So, good question. Anything else?
I think we covered it.
All right. Well, this is us signing off. I'm Mike.
I'm Heather.
And you have just joined us at MTM Labs. We'll see you soon.